Deep within our ancient tradition is the gift of healing. As Christians, we are called to point out and to name what is broken and to bring about healing and love for all people, all of creation. Our work is to restore all to community. Hello there. I am Beth Walker, and in the next 15 minutes or so, in this video, we hope to give you some insight into our rich and diverse faith tradition that shares that healing of mind, body, and spirit is possible. Heads up, in our scripture, there is a disturbed looking person in the video. Our sacred story shares that a person with demons confronts Jesus. I want to acknowledge that this might be hard for some to look at. When you have been hurt, it can be hard to see such pain and not feel some level of discomfort yourself. Healing and recovery from trauma is complex and it is messy. No, you are not alone. We are watching with you.
They went to Capernaum, and when the Sabbath came, he entered the synagogue and taught. They were astounded at his teaching, for he taught them as one having authority, and not as the scribes. Just then there was in their synagogue a man with an unclean spirit, and he cried out, "What have you to do with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us? I know who you are, the Holy One of God." But Jesus rebuked him, saying, "Be silent, and come out of him." And the unclean spirit, convulsing him and crying with a loud voice, came out of him. They were all amazed, and they kept on asking one another, "What is this? A new teaching with authority? He commands even the unclean spirits, and they obey him." At once his fame began to spread throughout the surrounding region of Galilee. This is a story of our faith.
The writers of Mark write with few words, more in the style of a tweet, and we have all come to witness how this form of communication doesn't always tell the whole story. Here's a quick recap of this very important healing story. Jesus is gathered in a temple with his people. They are reading scripture and exploring the meaning of that scripture. Someone comes into this safe place and challenges Jesus. Jesus heals this man. He is transformed and restored to community. Jesus speaks with such authority and compassion that he denies the ability of the Spirit to inhabit this human host. Jesus denies those kinds of forces to affect our mind, our body, and our soul, to hold power over us. Jesus is sharing his ability with us to exorcise the negative, the stuff that haunts our souls, as it no longer has authority over us. In the name of the one who would claim our fullness of who we are called to be. This story of our faith takes place in Capernaum. 5 years ago, I visited this ancient place. Here we found St. Peter's Church. At first appearance to me, anyways, it looks like a bit of a spaceship that hovers over ancient ruins. Once in the church, in the center of the floor of the church, there is a window that allows you to look down into what is thought to be Peter's home. It is believed that Jesus stayed in Peter's home. He was couch surfing, as my friend Keith Howard would say. Jesus persisted in sharing the good news of God's love and healing despite his own experiences of being run out of his hometown of Nazareth, leaving behind everything, including his friends and his family. This is a synagogue you find at Capernaum, the place where scripture reading is thought to have taken place. While This white structure looks impressive. It is not the building Jesus visited. This structure is supported by ancient foundational stones that archaeologists are sure would have been used in the original building. It's the darker material that you can see at the bottom, at the base of the walls. Synagogues have a typical floor plan. They include a prayer hall. The main building, the main prayer hall, always faces the direction of Jerusalem. Synagogues always have courtyards and side rooms. It is through this maze of rooms, doors, and passages, and people that I assume would be there, that this man who is possessed by demons enters into this holy sanctuary. While I could not walk directly upon the stones that Jesus did, I could see the same light and feel the same breezes that Jesus and his followers did so long ago, as I sat on the stone benches to pray and to notice this place. This, for me, was the most significant moment of my tour of Israel. As I opened my heart, I could feel the echoes of friends gathering, the terror and the fear when someone comes into a safe space, a sanctuary, a holy container. I could feel the mystery and the grace that is revealed when bridges are built, even in an instant, and healing happens. Now, anyone who has healed from an illness or broken relationship knows that healing doesn't often happen that fast. Healing takes patience, and we have learned this to be true as we look toward issues that divide our society. We are learning that solving problems of poverty, addictions, homelessness is not as easy as putting folks in a hotel. I certainly learned about healing from Eddie Charlie, who came to speak to us about the impact on his people and the generations that followed the residential school system. My heart broke when he said to us that he knew he would never see healing and reconciliation in his community during his lifetime. I wonder where I find myself in this great arc that bends toward wholeness and justice. During the inauguration of President Joe Biden, in the midst of ceremony and pageantry, was a prophet. And I was awestruck with the words of a 22-year-old poet laureate, Amanda Gorman. I know so many of you were deeply touched by her words. There was someone who dared to speak the truth to power, using her voice, despite, as she told Anderson Cooper, that she has a speech issue that stops her from pronouncing letters like her R's. I listened to her poem. These words caught my ears. And the norms and notions of what just isn't always justice. And yet, the dawn is ours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. I was meditating on the words, isn't broken, but simply unfinished, and thinking about the process of healing. I looked out my window to see these birds in my backyard. Clearly, they have received the memo of the danger of my cats, Luna and Sophie. But they were persistent, taking turns, gobbling up what they needed, then flying off into the trees, received back into the safety of their community. Maybe the story in Mark is sharing that miracles do happen in the gaps between the words with grace and hope. Mark gives no information about what happens to the spirit, which appears to become disembodied, not destroyed. This exorcism then doesn't eliminate evil and or oppression. It denies those kinds of forces the authority to hold ultimate sway over people's lives. As Christians, I believe our gift of healing is to be the presence of such grace and persistent hope, to stand against those things that have the power to hold us in a negative way. Having faith or believing that healing will happen if we are willing to work together, reconciling all to a path of justice. Well, beautiful people, I wonder what you are thinking about healing in your own life and in our community. What does it mean to be a work in progress in the eyes of the Creating One? I would love to hear your comments. Please leave your comments below in the comments section if you are able. I would love to speak to you. Know that I am listening.